On Global TV News Express, federal government approves 4 billion naira conditional cash transfer for vulnerable households. In business, Nigerian Economic Summit Group projects 5% growth in gross domestic product. On the foreign scene, rain hampers rescue efforts after landslide kills 22 in Indonesia. And in sports, Manchester City set up rebuild with signing of Omar Mamouche for £59 million. Hello and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to News Express on Global Television, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Queen Agaba. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and free to air on Nightcomsat. The National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP, has disclosed that its operatives have rescued 9 pregnant women from a baby factory in Abuja. This is contained in a statement by the press officer NAPTIP, Vincent Adekoye, in Abuja, revealing that the baby factory is situated at one of the sprawling estates in the Ushafa area of the Federal Capital Territory. He also disclosed that the raid on the facility followed a tip-off from a concerned citizen, adding that the victims were locked up in an apartment inside the estate by a yet-to-be-identified suspected trafficking agent after they were recruited through an online platform. The National Agency for Food, Drugs Administration and Control, NAFDAC, has destroyed fake, adulterated and unregistered food, drugs and cosmetic products worth approximately 1,367 million naira seized in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. In a brief remark during the exercise, the Director General of NAFDAC, Professor Mojisola Adeyeye, says the destruction exercise is a crucial and routine operation that the agency conducts across all zones of the Federation. Professor Adeyeye, represented by the director in her office, Festus Ukadike, stated that the goal of the exercise is to eliminate substandard, falsified and expired NAFDAC-regulated products from the supply chain. The Director General of the National Agency for Food, Drug and Administration and Control, Mojisola Adeyeye, says about 14.3 million Nigerians are victims of drug abuse. She stated this at the inaugural ceremony of the agency's youth program tagged Catch Them Young, held at the government secondary school, Rumokuta, Port Harcourt. According to her, research findings show that 1 out of every 4 high-risk drug users has been arrested for drug-related offenses. She added that the arrests included 73% for drug possession, 12% for theft, 5% for sex work, 4% for burglary and 2% for shoplifting. The federal government has approved 4 billion naira for conditional cash transfers to vulnerable households in Nigeria, set to commence in February and continue through April. Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, Professor Nentawe Yewada, announced the interventions during the launch of the 2025 Nigeria Humanitarian Needs and Response Plan at the United Nations House in Abuja. He says the initiative is aimed at addressing the country's deepening humanitarian crisis, as it is expected to support at least 10 million displaced households, primarily targeting the most vulnerable members of the society. Nigeria's First Lady, Senator Oluwami Tinubu, has lauded the National Youth Service Corps, NYSC, for its remarkable digital transformation. The First Lady gave the commendation during the official commissioning of the NYSC Digital Museum of Dynamic History and Television Studio in Abuja, praising the initiative as a significant step in modernizing the NYSC. She also emphasized how these innovations will enhance the organization's ability to showcase its rich history and provide a more engaging platform for future generations of Nigerians. The Yobe State government says it has concluded arrangements for hosting the 5th edition of the Lake Chad Basin Basin Governors Forum, LCBGF, from January 29th to 31st. The State Commissioner for Home Affairs, Information and Culture, Abdullahi Bego, made this known in Damaturu, adding that the forum organized by the Lake Chad Basin Commission, the African Union Commission, and the United Nations Development Programme would hold at Indimi International Conference Center, Maiduguri. He says the forum, with the team rebuilding the Lake Chad Basin, consolidating gains, commitment to peace, cross-border cooperation, security, and sustainable development for a resilient community, will provide a platform for dialogue and coordination among the 8 territories of the Lake Chad Basin affected by the Boko Haram crisis. The Tiv Cultural and Social Association, the umbrella body representing the Tiv people in Taraba State, led by its President General James Baka, has called for the establishment of a peace committee to address the lingering conflict between the Tiv and Jukun communities. The association made the call during a press briefing held by the association in Jalingo, the state capital, as they expressed appreciation to the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, and also commended the traditional ruler of Wukari for his efforts in promoting peace between Tiv and Jukun people. The group therefore noted his prayers and leadership as a beacon of hope and unity, urging all stakeholders to heed his call for collaborative efforts to resolve the tensions that have strained relations between the two communities. A federal high court in Abuja has cautioned the Inspector General of Police in the charge filed against Senator Andy Uba and 2 others over allegations bordering on 400 million naira fraud. Justice Inyang Ekwo gave the warning after IGP's lawyer MC Anthony relied on the FHC Rules 2019 in a motion ex parte filed to seek an order for substituted service of the charge on Uba and his co-defendants. When the matter was called, Anthony, who announced appearance for the prosecution, told the court that he was holding brief for another counsel. Justice Ekwo further observed that on November 13, 2024, when the matter was heard, though Anthony appeared in court in company of another lawyer, he did not inform the court that he held a brief of his colleague. The National Universities Commission, NUC, has announced that students studying pharmacy, physiotherapy and optometry in the university will now spend 6 years instead of the current 5 years to graduate. The commission added that instead of a bachelor's degree, they will now be awarded Doctor of Pharmacy, Doctor of Physiotherapy and Optometry, Doctor of Optometry, respectively. This was contained in a statement by the NUC's Acting Director of Public Affairs, Franca Chukunonso, explaining that more courses had been added to the 3 programs to align with international standards. The National Assembly, through its Joint Committee on Steel Development, has directed an upward review of the 2025 budget for the Ministry of Steel Development. Chairman of the committee, Patrick Ndubweze of the APC Imo North, declared this after the Minister Shuaibu Audu represented the ministry's 2025 budget estimate before it. In a statement by the ministry's head of information and public relations, Salamatu Jibania, in Abuja, the minister had in his representation sought an increase in the ministry's budgetary allocation to enable it perform optimally after it was given a 2025 budgetary allocation of 24 billion naira, as against its initial request of 315 billion naira. This is just as the Minister of Steel Development, Shuaibu Audu, while appearing before the National Assembly Joint Committee on Steel Development to defend the ministry's 2024 budget and the 2025 appropriation, revealed that the technical audit on the Ajaokuta Steel Company Limited will start early February. The federal government had signed a memorandum of understanding in September 2024 with the original builders of the Ajaokuta steel plant and their consortium members to conduct the technical audit, which will lay the foundation for the rehabilitation, completion and operation of the steel plant and the National Iron Ore Mining Company in Kogi State. Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Yusuf Tuga, has called for Africa's inclusion as a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council while positioning Nigeria as the continent's ideal representative. Tuga, who spoke at the World Economic Forum in Sweden during a panel discussion tagged Africa's Momentum, noted the glaring exclusion of Africa from the Council, despite the fact that approximately 60% of its resolutions pertain to African issues. In the statement signed by the minister's media aide, Al-Kazim Abdul Kadir, Tuga criticized existing policies that disproportionately impact Africa, such as the UN Council's deforestation law, which penalizes African nations for deforestation while ignoring the global corporations that enable it. He therefore is advocating fairness in global governance and Africa's active role in decision-making. The Court of Appeal sitting in Akure, the Ondo State capital, has upheld the death sentences slammed on Chief Ramon Adedoyin over the death of Mr. Timothy Adegoke, a student of the Obafemi Awolowo University who was found guilty by an Osun State High Court and subsequently sentenced to death. Adegoke was allegedly killed inside the Hilton hotels owned by Adedoyin on November 5, 2021. Justice Adepele Ojo sentenced Adedoyin and two members of his staff, Adeniyi Aderugba and Oyetunde Kazim, to death by hanging. The lower court had held that Adedoyin's decision not to enter the witness box meant he agreed to the murder charge pressed against him by the prosecution. Following a report that the Alaafin-elect Prince Akeem Owoade had put traditional rites that usually precede the crowning of a new Alaafin on hold, the head of Oyo Princes, Chief Mukaila Afonja, says, I beg your pardon, the new Alaafin has not even begun any seclusion rites. Afonja says, made this known while speaking in an interview, assuring that the normal rites that all Alaafin usually undergo will start immediately after the 46th Alaafin comes back from Canada. Recall that Governor Seyi Makinde of Oyo State had presented a certificate and a staff of office to the new Alaafin at the executive chamber of the governor's office. The governor also says those who were trying to distort the selection process by allegedly collecting money would also be prosecuted. You're watching the live broadcast of the News Express on Global Television, coming to you from the nation's capital, Abuja. When News Express returns, South Korea investigators recommend impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol be charged with insurrection and abuse of power. We'll bring you details of this as well as business and sports stories right after this break. Please stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us. If you've just joined us, this is Global Television bringing you live broadcast of the News Express. In business, the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, NESG, reveals that the country has the potential to record 5.5% growth in the gross domestic production on the back of sustained reforms. This was revealed at the launch of the 2025 Macroeconomic Outlook by the NESG. During his presentation, the Chief Economist and Director of Research and Development, NESG, Dr. Olusegun Omisaki, says the NESG believes at the optimal level it embarks on more efficient policy reforms. The Nigerian economy has the potential for the GDP to end up at 5.5%. The Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, LCCI, has preferred actionable solutions aimed at making the nation's economic landscape to benefit businesses, strengthening economic growth and development. President of LCCI, Gabriel Idahosa, made the recommendations at the Chamber's first quarter news conference in Lagos, noting that while the recent gross domestic product growth figures highlighted commendable progress, Gaps between current economic realities and the 2025 budgetary goals raised significant concerns. Idahosa says that by leveraging the 2025 budgetary allocations, government should introduce strategic incentives for sub-national governments, particularly at grassroots levels. The Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Adu, has endorsed the recently announced 50% hike in telecommunications tariffs, urging telecom companies to enhance their service quality in line with the price increase. The tariff adjustment, the first in over a decade, was announced by the Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC, as part of efforts to revive the telecom sector, which has sparked widespread debate and mixed reactions across the country. Speaking at the ongoing 2025 World Economic Forum in Switzerland, Edu described the hike as a necessary step to sustain the telecom industry amid rising inflation and operational costs. Portugal has indicated plans to increase the purchases of liquefied natural gas from Nigeria and the United States as part of efforts to reduce dependence on the already dwindling supplies from Russia. A report quoted the Portuguese Environment Minister Maria da Gracia Carvalho says the decision was taken following sanctions on Russian oil and gas imported through pipelines. On the foreign scene, the death toll from a landslide on Indonesia's main island of Java rose to 22, with 4 people still missing as rescuers raced against time and bad weather to find survivors. Intense rainfall on Monday in a mountainous area near Pekalongan city in central Java province sparked the landslide, collapsing bridges and burying cars and houses. Officials say the rescuers started to clean the thick mud and debris from the roads, but the search was paused due to bad weather and the potential for further landslides. South Korean investigators have recommended that impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol be charged with insurrection and abuse of power as they hand prosecutors the results of their probe into his ill-fated declaration of martial law. The Corruption Investigation Office says Yoon should be charged with leading an insurrection and abuse of power after a 51-day probe into his December 3rd attempt to suspend civilian rule. Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman has promised to pile $600 billion into U.S. trade and investments as he congratulated Donald Trump on his return to the White House. Prince Mohammed, de facto leader of the world's biggest oil exporter, made the pledge in a phone call following Trump's inauguration. Trump forged close relations with Riyadh in his first term and is now expected to push Saudi Arabia, home of Islam's holiest site, towards normalizing ties with Israel as a major foreign policy objective. In spite of the ceasefire in the Gaza Strip, several violent encounters have occurred involving armed or masked Palestinians. An Israeli military spokesman said in one such encounter, a man was killed, with the military identifying him as a fighter for the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, adding that in other cases, soldiers fired warning shots to keep masked suspects at a distance. Meanwhile, the army says it is determined to adhere to the ceasefire agreement while taking all necessary measures to protect its soldiers from potential threats. In sports, Manchester City has announced the signing of Eintracht Frankfurt forward Omar Mamouche, with Kylie Walker joining AC Milan on loan as the club step up their rebuild during a disappointing season. Egypt forward Mamouche has signed a 4.5-year contract with the Premier League champions for an initial fee of £59 million, which adds on worth potential £4 million. He is City's third signing of the January transfer window following the arrivals of defenders Abdelkadir Kusanov and Vitor Reis as manager Pep Guardiola reshapes his squad. Real Madrid are the first football club to top €1 billion in revenue during a single season, fueled by income generated by the revamped Santiago Bernabeu Stadium. Financial experts Deloitte revealed the order of the clubs at the top annual football money league stayed the same, with Madrid gulping €1.5 billion, $1.9 billion followed by the Premier League champions Manchester City with €838 million and Paris Saint-Germain with €806 million. Madrid has taken out loans totaling more than €1 billion since 2018 to renovate the Bernabeu, with the aim of turning it into a major source of revenue. Mauricio Pochettino has said that he has been handed a welcome selection headache after watching his youthful United States squad wrap up their January training camp with a 3-0 victory over Costa Rica in Florida on Wednesday. Goals from Major League Soccer-based players Brian White, Caden Clark and Patrick Angiamang completed a confident win for Pochettino's side at the Inter Amco Stadium in Orlando. With the games falling out of the official FIFA window for international fixtures, Pochettino used the friendlies to run the rule over the U.S. talent pool, with most of his Europe-based players unavailable for selection. In tennis, Madison Keys fought back from a set down to shock Iga Swiatek in a nail-biter and set up an Australian Open final against two-time defending champion Aryna Sabalenka. The 19th seed battled through a thrilling semi-final on a final set tie-break against the world number 2, 5-7, 6-1, 7-8, after Sabalenka had swept aside Paula Badosa in straight sets. To end Global TV News Express, here is a recap of our top stories. The federal government has approved €4 billion for conditional cash transfers to vulnerable households in Nigeria, set to commence in February and continue through April. In business, the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, NESG, has revealed that the country has the potential to record 5.5% growth in the gross domestic product on the back of sustained reforms. On the foreign scene, the death toll from a landslide on Indonesia's main island of Java rose to 22, with 4 people still missing as rescuers raced against time and bad weather to find survivors. And in sports, Manchester City has announced the signing of Eintracht Frankfurt forward Omar Mamouche with Kylie Walker on loan as the club set up their rebuild during a disappointing season. That's it on Global Television News Express. A quick reminder that Global TV is on DSTV channel 365, on Star Times channel 276, and free to air on Nightcomsat. Kindly follow us across all social media platforms using @Global TV NG and other handles now showing on your screen. I'm Queen Agaba. Thank you for watching and see you again.